is Paramatma's dance. So which one would you choose? You would rather have your own separate dance, or you want to join the whole universe, right? So we have to realize, like if you look at an ocean, is there a single wave there? There is not just one wave, there are millions of waves. If there is a tree, is there only one leaf dancing in the wind? No, the whole tree will sway together. So we are all in this together. To have that sense of belonging to the universe is a great sense to have. That way, whatever happens, you are part of it. And that sense of unity with everything else brings your mind at peace, and your individuality becomes less important. And good morning. And once you realize the universality and your connection with the rest of the world, that itself is a offering to the God. When you yourself consider yourself separate than everybody else, you putting more importance to yourself than the person who is next to you. That means God had created you both same, but that decision of God is not acceptable to you. I am more important. So when you realize we all are important, if somebody may be looking ugly or beautiful, doesn't matter. Somebody is tall or short, doesn't matter. Somebody rich or poor, doesn't matter. They're all friends. When you accept all that, that's a prayer to God Himself. So that shows that your ultimate respect to the consciousness. So there was a story of a fakir. He goes to a town, and this guy was really, really religious, and he prayed to God every day. He lived a very religious life. But there was one guy in the neighborhood, that the new neighborhood he moved in, was a troublemaker, and he created all these robberies and loud music and all the other pleasures of life, and there was basically a lot of disturbance in the neighborhood. And this fakir could not concentrate on his meditations and samadhi, and so he kept on praying to God that please, fix him up. I can't stand this guy. He's really disturbing the peace of everybody. So it went on for almost a month, and before, God had never responded to him in his prayers. All of a sudden, God responded. He says, I've been putting up with this guy for 60 years, and you've been here 3 months and you're complaining. So he says, he's my creation. Why do you have any problem? He says, everything that is a creation of God, you have to have respect. So that's what happens.
You know why I have respect for you now,
Yeah. Good. You are in devotion.
So the thing is that we have to be able to synchronize with the surroundings. Anything that is happening around us, we should be able to accept it. It's not like the father goes to meditation and the kids can talk. The TV can't be on. Kitchen cannot be, having noise of the pots and pans, this and that, all this. So then your dhyan is conditional. The guy leaves the society and goes to a jungle and then crow starts crowing. And he gets fed up. He can't even have a break. I said, what did I do to the crow?
Right.
I mean, wife I could understand.
Right.
Maybe I did something and she's giving me a hard time. So the problem, the real dhyan is not saying that when the whole world will quiet down, then I'll be at peace.
Right.
Your dhyan is your dhyan. Whatever is happening, the pots and pans may be making noise, kids may be shouting, the TV may be on, but you are at peace. The thing to do is to change your internal environment. That's what dhyan is for. When we're trying to fix everybody else,
When
yes.
you are at that stage, nothing bothers you.
You should not, right.
Should not bother.
If you don't realize, then you're not doing dhyan at all.
Yeah.
The dhyan is total
Not
acceptance.
Only that, you are still involved with
Right.
the worldly,
The dhyan is, see, when you're not in dhyan, you're trying to fix the world anyway.
You are trying to
Oh,
find
you
the
do this
excuse.
and you do that, and
You
you
are
tell your
trying to
wife and,
find the
and you
excuse
tell your
of-
husband, do that, why don't you do that? So if you're doing all these things, you're a total doership mode. And then all of a sudden you're going into dhyan and you're still having a doership mode. Oh, I don't like this, I don't like that, they're making noise, this and that and all that. That's not dhyan. So that samadhi is a conditional samadhi. And conditional samadhi is a duality. You will never reach Advaita. Advaita means you see universality. You will see everything. If the crow makes a croak, it's fine too.
But that's not the process, eventually you go to
We
the
hope,
Samadhi. Yeah,
we hope.
Eventually.
But
this is always in the
hopefully you
beginning.
will only if you realize that's the dhyan. Because a lot of people consider dhyan as a concentration. I have to concentrate. It's not dhyan, even though the name of the dhyan may be a misnomer. On the contrary, during the dhyan, you become really more aware and more awake.
It is more deep
And
concentration.
you listen everything, and even more than what you normally used to listen, because normally when your eyes were like wide open, you were so focused on your thoughts or something, you may not even notice a lot of things. But when now everything is gone, you may become more aware of the surroundings. You may hear more things than you, but that's fine. It's the acceptance of even that is dhyan. So,
You want, not with us. Not fair.
so the peace will not happen until your internal environment is at peace.
Why?
And when your ego,
No.
so the samadhi will not happen until the capital I is standing. And capital I is going to stand until you have requirements, likes and dislikes and hatreds and things like that. People don't want to do dhyan. They say, I don't want to do dhyan, but I want peace. The real peace that is experienced in the samadhi, you will never have. The day-to-day peace you may have. Say, okay, I want to shut up my house and walk away from the society. I want to close myself in the four walls, and just want to have peace.
Detach yourself.
That's a conditional peace. But you still may be carrying the whole sansar in your head. Whether with walls or without walls,
It is-
doesn't matter.
It is absence of discomfort, not
Right.
not peace.
Real peace. Right.
Building the White House with bread.
So we have to accept the world as it is. Because like I said, it's Jagat. Jagat jo gatishil hai, wo Jagat. Gati is part of that. The change is always going to happen. Change is happening in you too. You don't realize it. So we have to go beyond the change, but that's your internal process. See, we're just getting away from the beautiful spring, and the flowers are going down, and we enjoyed the spring. And we had a good time. Beautiful flowers, the birds and the bees, and the nice, now we forgot the cold nature of the winter is gone. All that dead environment is now coming up alive, right? The thing is that, that makes us very happy. But what will happen when the spring is gone? The same thing. Outer environment should not be the only thing that is responsible to create the internal good feelings, right? So you have to create your own spring within you.
Is it not we have to forget the past? What is gone, and now
Same
we have to
thing.
live it?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. When you
Right.
say the spring
Exactly.
is gone, we have
Right.
to forget it.
So the thing is, you have to create that feeling of experiencing spring all the time, whether it is fall outside or dead winter outside, but that should be spring in your heart all the time. And that's totally up to you. You can develop a state of samadhi and peace and enjoy that with the same enjoyment that you used to enjoy while you were experiencing the spring. So there was a beautiful poem Rajneesh had quoted. It's very good. It's very particularly, pertaining to the situation. He says, what is Vasant? Vasant Rutu is spring, right? So बाहर तो वसंत अब आएगा नहीं, अभी चला गया है. Vasant has gone and it's not going to come for a long time. भीतर कोई वसंत पैदा कर. You create your own spring within. वसंत यानी मिजाज और मौसम के बीच समरसता. Your mijaj, your internal environment of your mind and outside, you develop samras. You become totally synchronized with the world. And at that point, you have total peace. So that's like I said, the theory of relativity. If two trains are in motion at the same speed, then you don't even know there is a motion there, because you're both moving at the same So when you synchronize with the world, when you totally accept the world as it is, there is no problem. If there is something that you don't like, then there is a problem. Then the ego comes into action.
Or
Like or dislike, right? Because like is another form of dislike, something else, right?
They are saying.
like there is a like and dislike.
Your hatred for carrots is what making you like the carrot cake. If but there were nothing but carrot cakes in the world to eat, you would hate carrot cake. The carrots do the job of making you like the carrot cakes, right?
But the like is and dislike.
Right. Like is and a dislike, right?
In Bhav Samadhi training, this is what it is. Okay, whatever you create, exactly opposite of that is created in the universe.
True.
Whatever you create, exactly
Positive and
opposite of
negative,
that
yeah.
is created. Immediately.
Matter and antimatter, particle and antiparticles, right? So बाहर तो वसंत अब आएगा नहीं, भीतर कोई वसंत पैदा कर. वसंत यानी मिजाज और मौसम के बीच समरसता. Be synchronized with the nature. निदाग हो तब भी फूलों के लिए रोना नहीं. When all the flowers are gone, still don't cry for the flowers. पक्षी साढ़े उड़ गए, अब डालियां सुनी है. All the birds are gone and all the tree branches are empty. ये सोचकर ग्लानि में खोना नहीं. Don't be upset just because the birds are gone, the flowers are gone. हर मौसम में नीरव और निश्चिंत रहना. As if nothing is bothering you. Stay peace and stay total calm. वसंत की नदी की भांति. You know how the rivers are flowing in the spring? वसंत की नदी की भांति मंद मंद बहना. Just go through the life at total peace. वसंत यानी मिजाज और मौसम के बीच समरसता. So dhyan is synchronization of mind and the matter. That is the real union of mind and the matter. Matter, like I said, Hindus and Muslims and they all talk the same language. There is nothing to synchronize. There is no asynchronicity between the religions anyway, because they all talk about God, maybe in a different way, but that doesn't mean anything. But the real synchronization is the spirit and the matter. When the spirit and matter combines, that's the greatest union. So that's the spirituality. Spirituality combines the mind and the matter. So the mind is spiritual. Right now it is more material, but it also has a spiritual aspect. So we are exploring the mind to learn the both aspects of the mind. Right now we've been material, we're thinking about matter all the time. But when you try to explore the spiritual aspect of the mind, that's the real union. And that's the real religion. And all religions teach the same thing, but the outer formats are different. So dhyan is a synchronization. Peace means the fusion of the microcosm that we are with the macrocosm, with the great universe. Now, dhyan is a process of me and you. It's my peace versus what is happening in the world, right? So, when we go to the forest, why is it easier to go into the meditation? Because there is me, yes, but there is no you. I don't have any hatred on the tree or the birds or nothing like that. So the you part disappears. And then all you have to do is the me part. But at home, when there is a noisy place around, there is me and then I have hatred for somebody else and whatever. You are in the material world and you have a lot of thoughts. So the you is very alive. So now you have to fight at both the ends. So the only time you see the existence of consciousness everywhere, that's the time you will have peace. Right now, in the initial stages, the forest or whatever situations are necessary for you to create the experience of Samadhi. But when you really go beyond that, when you realize the me as well as the you and everything in between is a play of consciousness, then you're concentrating or thinking of nothing but experiencing the consciousness. Then whatever happens is the play of consciousness.
So I think the point is not to recreate the spring in your mind.
No.
But to enjoy the summer.
Not
equally as the spring.
Well, the spring meaning every experience that you have right? If you remember the material elements of it, that's one thing. Then you're remembering the past,
Right.
right? Because then he says, no, I want my spring regardless.
Right.
Even though
So
there's
you
somewhere out
create
there I want.
eternally. You know,
It doesn't matter.
You're fine.
But the feeling that you had
Right.
of enjoyment, that can stay,
Right.
regardless of whatever is outside.
Right. So you enjoy the summer.
Whatever.
Or enjoy the winter.
Or winter,
So,
yeah, whatever.
so-
So, yeah,
And I feel that maybe the significance of spring that he mentioned in the poem could be just because of spring meaning life, new life.
of course, yeah.
So anything new beginning. So the joy that you
The
have
joy,
for anything.
exactly.
But,
in that
but the point
new
is to
beginning.
enjoy not only the new life but also death.
Anything, anything.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh.
To enjoy what is. And that's it.
Exactly.
Whatever it is, you enjoy.
Well, the thing is that your belief in death also disappears because nothing is dying. Like I said,
Yeah, it's transforming.
Death is just what is happening in front of you.
It's a transformation.
Right.
Yeah.
It's an event that is happening, but it's not necessarily a death. So, what happens outside can be stretched. It all depends how intense you can become involved at the Samadhi level. Whatever happens outside may not matter to you. Cancer may happen to people. Ramakrishna had a cancer of the throat.
Right.
Vivekananda's guru, right? And he was suffering. He couldn't eat. He couldn't drink. So Vivekananda asked him. He says, "Since you are so aligned with God, why don't you pray to Him so He gives you some comfort?" Now, when you reach to the state of Samadhi, you don't ask anything from God. Because whatever He gives, you are in total acceptance. The spring already has sprung inside.
You're right.
Whether it's outside, there is a fall, it doesn't matter. So when you ask something from God, that by itself is an insult. Say that means God should be doing something else. So my ego comes into action
You're
again.
asking for the reward what you have done.
Right,
It's not,
whatever.
Plus
yeah,
what
no,
you
no,
have
it's
is not acceptable.
Right, so
Yeah,
you
that's not
putting
the-
all the account of all the good things that you have done. Now you're asking for a reward. So you're still a businessman.
But the
You could
person
be
who
sitting in a
suggested-
temple, but you were maybe in your
The
shop.
person who suggested him, he is
Well,
not,
Vivekananda was a student.
yeah, whatever, he is not in the system.
Of course not, he was not.
Yes.
So he told Ramakrishna, I said, why don't you pray to God? So Ramakrishna didn't want to disappoint him. So he goes into meditation. And I know he could not have asked for, but he came out of the meditation. He says, so Vivekananda says, what did he say? What did he say? He says, you'll be surprised what God told me. He says, what? He says, Ramakrishna, same throat se kitna time peete rahoge? Use other throats. You are everywhere. You are universal. So you know what, Vivekananda? I'll use your throat. Doesn't matter. The food goes in your stomach, it's the same thing.
Right.
This guy was beyond matter. Nothing matters. Whatever is happened outside is totally acceptable. He says, now I will eat through your throat. I will drink through your throat. It's not a big deal. So it all depends what level of Samadhi you are at.
Similarly, I read somewhere, like some saints, they don't treat any of their troubles,
Illnesses,
like
yeah.
disease, illnesses. They say that the suffering which has been sent to you, you are expected to really suffer.
Sure,
So your karmas are burnt away.
sure. There was one fakir, he was praying to the God every day. And the king was passing by one day. And this guy hardly had any barely clothes on. He was shivering in the cold. He didn't have enough fuel to warm himself up and hardly had any food to eat. And the king was surprised though, because he listened to his prayers silently. And he was thanking God, that thank God for fulfilling all my needs. So the king called him next day. He says, what kind of prayer is this? You hardly have any needs. You don't even have shelter on your head. Your clothes are so worn out. You hardly have anything to eat. You're shivering in the cold. And you saying that you're thanking God that all your needs are met?
He satisfied.
What does it mean? He says, well, poverty is my need. He looked at the poverty as his need. He says, this is because God thought that poverty was necessary for me. And it is true. We all know that. Whenever you have deficiency of money, there are a lot of good things come out. You remember lives in
Then you
India,
appreciate
and a lot of good things, friendships come out in between. So, and money brings a lot of evils, and of course money brings a lot of good things too. So each situation is meant for you in one way or the other. Only we don't realize it. Any experience that you have or you go through, when you are able
If we hear all
that's been not normally taught that way, yes. But does not have to be. But then you're carrying the burden of karmas. That, oh, I have so many karmas, I went through so much, how many more karmas would I have to go through? And then all that account, when you open up your book, how many karmas I burnt already?
this
Who cares?
came up, my daughter was asking me this question, oh, I'm going through all this because of what I didn't do good in the previous. I said, don't worry, keep doing reasonably and live happily.
So, whatever is given to you, you have to make something good out of it. So it's like